Thank you for coming, and thank you for finding this room. Actually, it was kind of hard. I almost gave up trying to find it. Okay, just wanted to get to know the audience a little bit. How many of you are Survey123 users here? Let me ask the question a different way. How many of you are not Survey123 users? So there are a few new ones. Okay. There was a session given previous to this, and hopefully there's also a set of videos available online that will get you some introductory material in terms of what is Survey123, why are people excited about it, and what problems does it really solve. Okay, so I would encourage you to take a look at that. This is actually the extreme end of Survey123, where you've seen the product, you know the power of it, but you either want to make it work differently or make it look differently or make more money from it or whatever is the reason to do this. You're actually trying to change the behavior or the appearance or even add your own custom functionality in it. So it will be a little bit advanced session. We are not going to talk anything about what is Survey123, all right? Just to set the context. So people are still coming in, so we'll just wait. Actually, while we are waiting, I'm just curious, how many of us are developers here? About half of you. And the other half, I'm assuming you at least have access to developers to make this customizations. So it's good, you can make some notes. I'm going to give you some very important information here, and then you can definitely pass this on. And we will also make this presentation available to you in a PDF format so that you can share it with your organization or staff members so that they can get to know a little bit more. All right. We'll start in about a minute. Still people are coming in. How many of you are App Studio users? Okay. Okay, I think I've given enough time. So let's get started. I hope you're in the right session. This is the Survey123 for ArcGIS extending session. All right, and as I told you earlier, this is not an introductory session. This is a pretty advanced session, and we're going to give you a lot of information that will be very useful if you're trying to customize Survey123 a little bit further than what it already does. We'll give you all the options that's available. We'll show you all the options that's available and talk about how you would want to go about it. So my name is Satya. My full name is Satya Prasad. I work in the Redlands office over here. I run the Survey123 and the App Studio organizations. So if you guys don't know about it, Survey123 is actually built on top of App Studio. So just like how you can write many apps in App Studio, Survey123 happens to be one of the apps. Survey123 Connect happens to be the other app. All right. So knowing App Studio, or if you've attended App Studio, definitely helps you a lot. I'm actually joined here by Jonathan over here. Jonathan is our product engineer on Survey123, and he comes from the Melbourne R&D office in Australia. And he'll be here to answer any questions at the end of the session. And we also have our product manager here, James. James Tedrick works with me in Redlands, and he handles the product management aspects of it, but he's also equally dangerous at the product side of things. So if you have any questions, you can either go to Jonathan or James, or you can always come to our booth in the showcase, where we're here for a few more hours today. and get some information or demonstrations or see what's possible. Okay, I think we have almost a full crowd here, so I'm going to get started. This is a pretty loaded presentation, so we're going to cover a lot of things. We're going to first start off with understanding Survey123 and App Studio. What is the relationship? How to get started? What is App Studio? What is the licensing? So we'll cover all those things. Then we're going to talk about the customization. What kinds of customization you can do? What do we mean by customization? Branding customization, code customization, and then we're going to talk a little bit about what happens when you do customization. How do you actually? What is the next step? How do you take your custom Survey123 and deploy it or build it or put it in the stores or any of those things? You still need to do those things, right? So we're going to talk about that. And then we're going to talk a little bit about deployment options available to you and how do you actually ask your customers or your organizations to take advantage of the changes that you have made. How do we give it to them? All right, you guys ready? All right, let's get started. So first things first, let's actually take a look at Survey123 app itself. You might have actually just downloaded Survey123 app from the app stores, correct? Or you might have downloaded Survey123 Connect using a website and installed it on your desktop. Those things are great, but how did it all come together, or how did we even create it? So as I told you, Survey123 is built on top of App Studio. For people who are new to App Studio is a cross-platform development environment where we give you the ability to write apps quickly, easily with your existing web development skills or JavaScript skills. And then you can actually write apps that can target iOS, Android, Windows, Mac, and Linux. So it is not a coincidence that Survey123 works everywhere. Survey123 is available on all platforms, whichever platform you want. That is only because it was actually built using App Studio, and hence it got all the things. And hence, when we release Survey123, it's available on all platforms. You don't have to think about it. Okay? So when you extend Survey123, the same options are available to you guys too. That's the idea. All right. There are a few chairs available here in the front if you guys want to come over. So when you actually download App Studio, I'll talk about App Studio and licensing later. Just imagine that we have all downloaded App Studio. You might not see all the cool apps I have here, but what you could actually do is you can actually click on a new app. And when you actually click on a new app, let's see, it's going to give you some options. You can actually see. So when you actually click on a new app, it will go and try to get you all the apps that's available. So you get a different set of apps over here. We're not going to talk about App Studio. I'm not going to show you a demo of all these things. But what you should be interested in is you should actually go to this enterprise category. And when you go to this enterprise category, you will actually see two apps that's of interest to you. Okay, Survey123 and Survey123 Connect. Depending on what you want to customize, you would appropriately choose it. So most probably you will start with customizing Survey123. The first Survey123 that you're seeing, that is the source code of the app that you guys have downloaded from the store. Okay, so whatever we write is available to you. And if you read the description of it, it says this template contains functionality that matches version 1.10 of Survey123. So you know which version of source code that we are giving. And we always try to keep it up to date. Remember that when I clicked the new app, it went to the internet and it was showing me a loading icon. That is because every time you click a new app, it will go and try to see what is the latest version available. Okay, so that is the way you could get the latest source code. Once you do this, you can call it whatever name you want. Okay, so let me call it my new Survey123 killer app, right? Because that's what you're trying to do. That's fine. So you're going to actually create a new app, and once you create a new app, you're going to get something like this. You see, it's got the same icon and it's got this new name. So everything is actually ready for you at this point of time. So I can actually just double click that, and then what's going to happen is it's going to run the surveys. I already have a bunch of surveys, so it's showing me a few surveys, but you get the idea. This is exactly the Survey123 that you have on your devices. I'm just running through the source code. I'm actually running it through the actual code that we have written using App Studio. You're going to see all these things over here. It's going to look very, very similar. This is your current version of your own app, but if you see here, we're telling you this is 1.10. Okay? Now, this is how you actually start your customization journey. This is the first step. You would actually create an app using one of the templates that we give you, and you create it and you give it a name, and then you can start from here. Having seen this, let's actually come back over here and talk a little bit about the customization itself. Okay? So one set of customizations that we want to first talk about is something called as branding. So Survey123 is branded as an Esri app, right? It's got Esri authorized colors in it. It has got an icon that we use. It has got a name that we use. It has got description, text, copyright information, everything that we want it over there. So if you want to customize it and make it your own, obviously you can't keep using the same things, right? You have to change it. So you will start by changing the name. Most probably you want to change the colors. Most probably you also want to change the icons, right? Because that's the whole point of customizing it. And then you might also want to change the whole branding of the app. Like you want to make it look like your organization's app. So if your organization has a theme color of orange, you want this new app to look orange, right? Something like that. And then you would also want to change the icons of the app itself so that when it goes to the App Store or when you deploy it onto your devices, it looks like a different app, so that you're using a customized version of it. So how do we go about doing these things? This is the first level of customization that we're going to take a look at. Okay. So now, since I just want to do some branding customizations, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to actually come back to my App Studio over here, and I'm going to click on my app over here and click on the settings button. And once I do the settings button, it's going to give me a bunch of settings. This is what I'm actually interested in to change. I changed my title. I can even change it here again. And I also want to change the purpose of this particular thing. Say for example, I want to say this is data collection for XYZ employees to identify something like that, right? You want to have a custom app that is a data collection for your employees to identify water wastage so that they can go on and take some surveys and then submit it back to you. Simple things like that. So when somebody opens this app or when you go to the App Store with it, this is what they see. And you might want to just change the thumbnail of the app itself. Say for example, you want to change to this, and I'm going to say okay. You want to have the icon called Stop Water Waste. That's your icon, your city of Naperville, and you want to use it. So and then you would also go ahead and change all the description and access constraints and credits and all that kind of stuff. So the next set of customization you can do is after you're done with the content is with the colors. So we have exposed this nicely so that you still don't have to go to the code to make any of these changes, right? I'm not showing you any code right now, which I will in some time. So here again, as I told you, I really don't want this. I really don't want this blue. I mean green. My water wastage app is sort of this. It has a blue theme. I'm going to use blue, and for the text color, I really want it to be black. Okay, I'm going to change that, and for the background, maybe I'm going to use a darker. I don't know, just to make it look different. I'm going to change it. Okay, and click apply. Then you can go and look at some other properties, and then once I actually am done with it, I can come back to my app, and when I actually run this app, you will see that it has changed from my greens to the blue. The background has also changed, right? The things I just applied got changed, which is exactly what I want. So when I actually come over here, are you guys getting the point? It still looks similar to Survey123, but it's not, right? We are getting there. We are trying to customize it. And then when you actually go about here, or you can change all those things. Okay, what else can you do without writing code? You can actually go ahead and change the icon itself. So I already talked about this. So maybe I have a set of icons that's readily available. I'm going to use an app icon. I'm going to use a nice one so that it's acting funny here, but so that it's going to look like this when I go to the app store or when I put it on your phone, right? It's not going to have the Survey123 icon. It's going to have this icon. And then most probably you also don't want the Survey123 thing at all. In fact, I will actually say I don't want an image itself. I'm happy with my logo. I'm going to change my background color, and I'm going to make it I kind of want it very simple. This is my launch image, and when I open the app, that's how it should look. I'm perfectly happy with it. And then I'm going to click apply, and then I'm going to come here, and by default Survey123 says it can run on desktop, tablet, and phone. That's up to your choice. And then you're going to come to this display tab, and then it's going to ask you questions like, hey, when you actually run this app on the tablet, we actually support the portrait mode, the landscape mode. Are you okay with it? I guess you should be okay with that, because Survey123 has actually been written for to work well on that. But if you don't want it, you can come back and switch it off. Are you guys getting it? So in this particular case, it won't work on landscape. It will only work on portrait. We have actually done that for the phone. If you actually have observed, when you use Survey123 on the phone, if you rotate it in landscape, nothing happens, right? On the tablet it works, on the phone it doesn't. That is because by default we have actually set landscape to be off, and we only support portrait. Because on a phone, on a small device, we feel that is the correct way of using this app, and since it's linear and it goes from top to bottom, that's a nice user interface. On a tablet you have more real estate, so we support both. So you can go ahead and change any of those things. And you would also see that Survey123 by default is using some functionality, right? It is using network. Remember, it goes out and downloads your surveys, and once you submit your survey, it has to go and put it back into your feature service or whatever you have connected behind the scenes. And because of that, we ask for the network permission. We ask for location, right? Most of your surveys have location in it. Either you want a map control or not, it still captures location, and we use the device location a lot. So we have asked for the permission. We also have camera. What if you are taking a camera based question? So where we want to ask permission for camera. Similarly, remember that Survey123 can speak out or play audio, and in future we might support recording audio, and because of that we're asking that permission. And then the last one is external storage. External storage means we are actually using your device's storage ability to store so that we can support an offline workflow. So what are the things that we are storing? You guys have been using Survey123, right? So what do we store on the device? Does anybody know? Yeah, for offline maps. If you have used Survey123 Connect and configured tile packages, you would have that is something that we need to store, and that might be pretty big, right? But what is something that we always store? The actual surveys and your responses itself. Remember, every time you actually fill out a survey, you have the ability to save it and submit it later. So where are we putting all these things? We are not just sending it off to the server, we are holding it locally on your device, right? So that you could actually take a look at it later. Behind the scenes, yes, we are using SQLite, but that's an implementation detail. But for that to work correctly on your phones, the phone provider, like your Apple or Google phone provider, wants us to specifically ask for the permission when we install the app, and hence we have actually set it. I'm just giving you guys this information because if you want to customize and if you want to add something brand new or remove something, this is something you need to be aware of. You can either turn it off or on depending on the functionality. And there is something other that some other things you need to worry about. When you are going to take this app and go to the store, suppose you make some customizations and you want to go to the store. We have actually given the certificates to the store, we have given all the information to the store, and they accept our apps. And you will have to do the same things too. You will have to call this app, we already called this app something. You will have to go to Google Play and submit this app as to say to the Google Play Store. Then you might want to provide a package name here called com.xyz. Something app 1 or something like that, and then you would also want to sign these things so that the store can accept it, or your enterprise distribution systems can actually accept it. So signing and all those things is a little out of this scope of this, but just keep in mind that is something that you will have to do, because that's exactly what we do every time we update an app in the store. We go through the same process. So I'm just showing you all the process. All the tooling you need for this is already provided by App Studio. So you don't have to figure out how to do all these things. All we are asking you is to provide the information so app becomes yours. Okay? Because that's what you're trying to do. You're trying to customize it. Similarly, for iOS and Mac and Windows, you can give us more information. There's also something called as ArcGIS Client ID. Does anybody know what is ArcGIS Client ID? Sorry?
Yeah, ID from the ArcGIS Online application. Let's put an application on ArcGIS Online and have an ID for the result of the registration.
Okay, yeah. So it's funny that only one person knows about it, but but that is the correct answer. But let me tell you why you need this. So what is ArcGIS Client ID? How many of you have logged into ArcGIS? Everybody should, right? So when you log into ArcGIS, they ask you for a username and password, right? And you just log in. But behind the scenes, there is something called as an OAuth, or there is some sort of authentication that happens behind the scenes. And if you have to register for that authentication scheme, they want to know who is actually requesting this information. It's a very standard practice. If you use Google or Facebook, everybody uses similar login pattern. Since all these days you were just consuming the app, all you had to do was open the app, log in, and forget about it, right? Now you guys have chosen to be on the other side because you're customizing it, correct? So because you're customizing it, since you are the provider of the app, you need to tell the ArcGIS organization or your portal who you are, okay? Otherwise, they don't know who is even trying to log in. Should I even allow this app? For example, can I use this app and go to somebody else's organization and log in, using the same username and password? Most probably not. I'll give you an example. A very secure user in an organization would have created a username called ABC and password called ABC, right? Might be valid. Now, if I don't register this app in the organization, this app could potentially go and target some other organization and use the same username and password, because it's a very common username and password. So how do they stop you from doing that? So by default, what's going to happen is your organizations, your portal and your online organizations will not allow any foreign apps to come and talk to it. So there is a set of apps that has already been whitelisted. What are the set of apps that already been whitelisted? Collector, Explorer, ArcGIS Online, Web App Builder, App Studio. Some of the apps that Esri builds have been whitelisted for you. But if you want to register your own app, there is an ability to do that. It's actually pretty simple. It is simple once you know how to do it. So that's what my goal is, to show it to you, okay? In simple terms, all the things I just said is called client ID. So that is what we want. We are a client to ArcGIS and we want an ID for it. So how do we get it? It is literally very simple. You can either go to www.arcgis.com and create an app and register. But since you're in a developer conference, I'll show you one other way to do it, maybe something new. So you can actually go to developers.arcgis.com, okay? And then you can log in with your username and password. And here you can come and register a new app. Okay, you can come and register something called as a new app. When you actually register for a new app, it's going to give you some information over here and ask you all those things. So just to save some time, I have actually just registered an app, and let me show you what it looks like. So I actually registered this demo app earlier, okay? And if you see, once you register the app, this is what we are looking for. Are you guys getting it? This is the client ID that I'm looking for. Now, though I can get this client ID, there is one other step that I need to do. Because this client ID needs to know who you are actually calling. So what this client ID will do now is it's going to allow my app to log into any organization that I have registered in. But still, so it will do the login, and it will say, okay, you're authorized to access this company's information or this content. But once it authorizes the information, where should it send it back? So that's the question, because you have asked the organizations to log you in, it will log you in, but it doesn't know where to come back, okay? In order to tell us where to come back, it is something called as if you scroll down over here, or actually go to Authentication and scroll down over here, it is something called as a redirect URI, or basically, see, in simple terms, they just want to know where I should actually send it back. So for mobile applications, the redirect URI you're going to use is it looks something like this. There's documentation on this, don't worry, it's easy to find. But if you actually put this URI, then what it's going to do is, if you call from your mobile application, it's going to log you in and send you back to the same mobile application so that you can continue using it. Okay, it's a simple thing, you just have to do it. But once you do it, all we need is this client ID. So let me show you, and we need to paste it over here, okay? So let me actually give you a glimpse of what's going to happen if you don't do it. So I'll come back to my Survey123 killer app over here and actually double click it, and I'll actually run this application. When I run this application, everything looks good. I want to go ahead and download my surveys now, and I'm going to click on download my surveys. Oh, there you go. I tried to access an organization. It is saying, I'm sorry, I don't know who you are. Okay? This is exactly what I said that we had to do. Since we did it, now we know what is this problem. It is an invalid client ID, and we exactly know what we need to do. What do we need to do? We need to go to settings, okay, click on advanced, and then type in the client ID that you just registered. Okay, you guys registered that, you added a callback URL, And once you do that, okay, let me show you. Let me actually go back to this this demo app. So what is this app called? What is, how have we registered this app as a demo app? Remember? And it is part of my organization that I have actually logged into. See what's going to happen now when I actually run this app. So since I've registered this app now and it's allowed into my organization, when I actually try to sign in, oh, there you go. It is now giving me a username and password box where I can do it. Not only that, it is telling your end user who is asking for their username and password. This is the whole reason why we did this. Are you guys realizing this? So it's an important step. It's a one-time step, but an important step. You see, it's saying demo app wants access. So instead of demo app, if I had put ArcGIS Survey123 killer, it would have said Survey123 killer wants your app. Most probably they'll not log in because the name sounds funny. But if you have a proper name, it will say, okay, this application wants to access. And not only that, if they scroll in the bottom, they will also know that that application is coming from your own organization. This is organization information. So this will be your XYZ portal or XYZ company organization. So now they actually really know, yes, this application is asking for my organization credentials. This is the name of the app, and this looks like my organization. So now they feel more than happy to actually log in. Okay. Hence, we have to do this. It's a one-time step, but an important step. Without doing this step, don't do any customization because you cannot log in. Okay. Are you guys on the same page? Okay. That's it, right? We have changed the color, we have changed the name, we have changed the icon, we have changed the text, we have changed the description, we have given a client ID. I can actually create a Survey123 competitor right now. How about that? Are we done? Pretty much. If this is all what you want to do, you are done. And it's perfectly fine. You can deploy this in your organization and make it look like your own app. Perfectly fine, not a problem. Okay? All right, let's actually get back. I'm sure you guys are not just happy with that, but let's actually come back. Okay. Now you actually will tell, you know what, I really want to code. I'm not happy with just changing colors or writing stuff. So this is where we will get into the next set of customization that you can actually do. Before I actually go and show you the code and show some few examples, I want you to understand what are some of the scenarios that you want to customize. And if you didn't cover any, you can come and talk to us after the session, okay? So here is the first very common request that we get. The first thing they want to do is they want to replace the mapping that Survey123 comes with a runtime based or some more advanced based customization. How many of you want to do that right now? Good. Oh, no, okay. We still have a few people. So if you want to do that, you could do it, but it is a customization step. That is because, just as an FYI, Survey123 does not use runtime. Okay? Survey123 is built in App Studio, but it has chosen not to use runtime because it is not a map-centric application. Okay? It is a data collection, a form-based, a layout-based, a layout-specific kind of application. By the way, the map aspect of Survey123 is just one question. And what is that question type called? GeoPoint, right? GeoPoint just becomes one question. Can you author a survey without even showing a map control? Yes, you can make it hidden. You see? So you can have 50 questions in your survey and you can have a GeoPoint field that is hidden and we don't even have a map control. Are you guys getting it? So the Survey123 as an app is not a map-centric app. It's not like Collector where you start with a map, okay? It's not like that. And because of that, we didn't need a full-fledged, extremely capable mapping engine to be embedded, okay? Instead of that, we actually chose an extremely lightweight, a slippy map kind of concept where App Studio itself provided a simple map control, and we just chose to use it, okay? And because of that, you will see that the number of things you can do with a map control is limited. It actually does things very well. It shows you the map, you can change base map, it can even read and show you the offline maps, correct, the TPKs. It will show you your current location, it will allow you to change your current location, it will allow you to change the lat longs, it will even show you the elevation values, okay? All these things are there, but it does not have your web map or your existing features or any of that kind of stuff, okay? Because the functionality is very simple, and because of that, there is some customization possible. Some have actually asked me, can I do it with online maps? That's also fine. And the most other common scenario that we come across is, you know that Survey123 is based on XForms, right? How many of you know that? XForms, XLS forms. And you author that. So what are the types of questions that you author? Can somebody tell me? Sorry? Labels and text, and don't be shy, you know. You've been using it. So what questions? Yeah, you just have text, multiple selects, single select, multiple select, right? Image, repeats, right? Calendar or date controls, right? So, and you make a combination of that. You even make branching logic and display logic, and that's why you guys love it, isn't it? So each of that question that you enter in your XLS form, remember you select a type of that question. Each one of those questions that you select, or the each individual type of that questions that you select, is actually a control that is available in the app, okay? So we have a control called label. By control I mean some code called label. We have some code called text box. We have some code called drop down. We have code called image and map and this and that, right? So we give you a library of controls that we ourselves are using to interpret your XForms or your survey, okay? If you are not happy with that, or if there is a use case where you want to add more functionality to that, or you might want to completely replace it and make it your own, all three are valid scenarios, okay? Then this is also some customization that you can actually do. And we will just show you how to do that in a bit. You can also do customizations, and this is also very common, to do some authentication workflow. Just as a trivia, I just showed you an authentication workflow that we just did, right? So what did we do in our default Survey123 app? What was the authentication workflow we used? Sorry? It's OAuth, right? Because that's the default authentication scenario that we have with our portal. So by default, Survey123 logs into your organization, uses OAuth, and gets all the surveys. That is great for our app, but that might not be great for your app, okay? Maybe you want to authenticate to some internal authentication system that you guys might have. Or maybe you have a department-wide thing where you actually want Survey123 or your own version of Survey123 to log into your organization, and once they log in, you will figure out who they are, and then you will automatically know which surveys they're supposed to see, okay? So you don't want Survey123 to go and figure out directly from your portal. You want to be in the middle and say, hey, I log into Survey123 and I know which department you work in, and I know what date it is, and I know where you are, and based on that I want to give you 2 surveys today. If there is some custom logic like that, it's a perfect candidate to customize, okay? Unless there is some requirement like that, don't try to just go ahead and customize these things, okay? You're going to take on a lot of work that we have already done for you. So you can do one of these things. Out of the box, we give you OAuth. You can also do a classic authentication, which in this use case, give me a username and password directly in the app. You can just ask for that. Or you can do a lot of other things. You can use web views, you can use social logins, you can do whatever you want to here. We give you a network request. You can add additional HTTP headers. You can make custom JSON calls. It's completely up to you what you want to do. It's fully open. You can just change it. But you need to know what you're doing at this point. The next set of customization that you might want to think of, or if there is a need, is for data flow and submission. This is a common scenario that comes up when we actually meet bigger companies. They already have some sort of a workflow and stuff, and they really don't want Survey123 to only be talking to the ArcGIS backend. I mean, they're happy with that because it makes it easy, but they also want to do something else. So for example, they might have had an SAP database, or they might have had a workflow manager or a workflow solution that you bought from some other company for a few $1 million, and your whole company is on that infrastructure. That is how all your work management is done. But you want to use Survey123, and whenever they submit a survey, it is great that that information goes to ArcGIS service and you can see it on a map and get some reports. But what they also want to do is they want this to get to your work order management system and immediately create a work order so that the worker on the field knows that something needs to be done. Okay? So those are the situations where you will say, oh, okay, Survey123 doesn't do that out of the box. What should I do now? Well, the best thing to do at that point is to look at some customization. So if you want to submit data to some custom web services or even multiple sources, that's a good choice for customization. One other workflow is, suppose you want to track time and location of the device all the time. We don't do that for you right now. We'll only record the time and location based on the geopoint question and the time in which the survey was submitted. Suppose you have a requirement to bill, so you have a surveyor on the field and he gets billed by the minute, say for example. So you exactly want to know when did he start the survey, how much time he spent on the survey, and when did he actually click on submit. And that is the time you're going to bill him. Okay? And he's going to come and give you a nice bill, right? That he spent 50 hours on it. But behind the scenes, you also want to validate it. You want to say, yes, he indeed went there. And there is other use case where they actually want to make sure you are in the spot. You don't want to be sitting in a Starbucks and filling out these surveys, because that also could happen. Basically a fraud scenario, right? You have volunteers and you're actually paying them per survey. They'll sit in Starbucks and submit 50 surveys. They will come up with very nice ways of filling it out. You don't want that, right? You want them to actually go and make sure that they should be in that place. So those are the kinds of scenarios that you need to you can customize. Editing existing data, this was in my slide previously because we never supported that. A very popular feature. You want to edit your existing data, and we have actually, since the 2.0, which is available in beta right now. If you don't know what I'm talking about, please come and talk to James and Jonathan later. They will tell you what this 2.0 thing is about. There is a beta program going on for the next version of Survey123, and which is called 2.0. And through that, we are supporting editing existing data. What does editing existing data mean? Most probably the things you already know, okay? So come and talk to us. I don't want to go into that. So if this we are already doing, but for whatever reason you cannot wait, you have to do it on your own, you want to roll your own, then this is a good customization scenario too. Again, just be very aware. All of the scenarios I've talked is extremely focused on your organization and your workflow, okay? So hence Survey123, which is a generic app, will not take on all these things for you guys, because we want to cater to a broad audience. So we will do things that is applicable to a lot of organizations. But if there is anything specific to your own organizations, that is a good candidate for customization. Are you guys with me here? Sounds good? Hope I didn't scare you off. Okay, so since you know what you need to do, actually there's one more. Yeah, actually let me just talk about this too. I told you guys that we are using something called as XForms or XForms behind the scenes, and that is how we are authoring all the questions in your Excel sheet, and we are giving you a bunch of controls to render that. That whole controls is actually a sort of a library that we have in the app, and it's called XForms. I'm going to show you that. Okay? That XForms is actually pretty independent module. It has its ways of showing things. So you might be extremely tempted to say, you know what, I already have an app, and all I want is just that form filling capability that Survey123 has. Okay, so I'm going to do one thing. I'm going to take that Survey123 form filling capability and try to put it in my own app. Okay, so that is the scenario. When you're thinking along those lines, just remember this thing. That other app that you're talking about, or your own app that you're talking about, has to be an App Studio app, because this is built on App Studio technology. You can't suddenly take it and put it in some other app. Okay, if some other app is an App Studio app, it's okay to do that. But that is, again, the next thing is, it is doable. That is, this library is portable, but it's not like you port it and suddenly Survey123 is going to appear in your app. It's not going to happen. You have to put the library, and you need to wire the logic for that library. And you can obviously see the source code of Survey123 and see how we are doing it, and you can copy. But I'm just telling you, don't expect magic, right? You can't just copy and paste and just run. No, it's not going to work like that. You need to do a little bit of work, okay? For example, you have all used Survey123 Connect, right? In Survey123 Connect, when you author a survey, don't we actually show you a preview, right? Do you see a preview of your survey? How do you think we are doing that? We didn't write everything again. Survey123 Connect is a good application to see how we ourselves wrote XForms first for the Survey123 app, and we just took that XForms and actually embedded it inside Survey123 Connect app to give you guys a preview. Hence, you get a real preview of what it's going to happen. Okay? So that is a good example of how, if you only want form-based functionality, that they're going to do. Okay? So now let's say that okay, we have decided we are going to customize, and I'm going to go for it. That's fine. Let's see how you will be able to do that. Okay? So here is I have an app. It's called Survey123 It's great. Just looks the same thing. And then I can also sign in. So I've done the client ID work correctly, I guess. Let me see. I keep losing internet. I'm not too sure why. Okay, so I've done all these things. So this is working great. So I want to customize. Let's take a look at what you can actually customize. So if you want to take a look at the code itself, let me first open the folder here and show you what is going to happen. So the things that you want to be aware of is these three folders: the folder called XForms, the folder called template, and the folder called portal. Okay, so these are the three very, very important folders that you should be aware of, and we're going to go into that in much detail. So how do you start editing this app? So you come and select your app, the new Survey123 app, and then you click on this green button over here. Okay, if you click on this green button, what App Studio will do is it will take your current app and make it editable through an IDE or through a development environment. Okay, and what you are seeing here is something called as QML. QML is a language that we use to write Survey123. It is extremely similar to HTML. If you know HTML, you will feel very familiar. And then to write any other business logic, for example, we use JavaScript. So JavaScript is the business logic, okay, and also the logic to get your event, to get your UI to work correctly. And for the actual components and the actual business objects itself, we use QML. Okay, I'm not going to get too much into it. If you want to learn more about it, you need to learn a little bit about App Studio. By the way, it's a lot of fun to write apps in App Studio. Anyway, so that's beyond the point here. But let me actually show you how do you run this code. So if you want to run this code, so I'm going to open, say for example, this template, and I'm going to say this Survey123 app, right? Let's actually look at Survey123 app.qml. This is the first file. So you can see there is a lot of properties and variables and JavaScript that's already done. Suppose you are working in this and you want to run this app. How are you going to run this app? You can run this app in two ways. You can make some changes here, and you can come back to App Studio and you can actually double click it. That's one way to run the app, but that's not really what you're doing, because you really are doing some development and you want to make some changes and look at it right there and not go to some other app. How do you do it? There's a lot of shortcuts available. You can just go to Tools, External, App Studio, and you will know all these shortcuts available. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to run this app. This is the shortcut I'm going to use. So on my Mac, it's Shift, Option, and R. On your Windows, it will be Shift, Alt, and R. And once I do that, you will clearly see the same app runs. And it not only runs, it also gives me sort of a debug or sort of a console of what is happening. So when you're writing these apps and customizing these apps, this will be very useful to you if something goes wrong. Okay? So this is how you would actually start developing the code, start making changes to the code, running it, make sure everything is actually working correctly. And then, so you would want to take 3 levels of customization, as I told you. So this is something that you guys should be very aware of. So when I actually run this app, so you see that you have all these surveys, right? You have this header bar, you have these controls, and you have this about page, the settings, and you have this screen and all those things. All the things about this app is actually in this folder called template. Okay? So anything you want to change in the app, the way the app looks and feels, you need to be looking at this template folder, and it has all the code. If you want to change anything inside the survey itself, okay, as to how the survey actually shows and how it actually layouts and all those things, you should be looking into a folder called XForms. Okay, this XForms is the folder where everything related to the actual survey being represented is there. And if you want to change anything about the authentication or anything about how you actually connect to your portal or any of that, you should be looking at a folder called portal. It has got all the connections, then you will see how we are actually calling the portal, how we are making the calls and all those things. Okay, so that is the customization. So let me do a quick demo of changing something. Okay, so I actually am not very happy with the way the text looks in Survey123. I see that there is some text for each question that comes, right? It's a label or something. I really don't like that. I want to change the color of that label. Let's just pretend. So where do we actually find it? Since it's got something to do with the survey, I'm going to come to my XForms folder, and I'm going to start looking in this file called xform.qml. And I kind of know what kind of question it is. What kind of question is a label? It is a label type of question, right? So I see that it's all got this XForm and all those things. So I'm going to actually start searching here called XForm label maybe. Oh yeah, there you go. So we get something called as a label control. So this is the XForm label control. Okay, this control is used to represent all the labels. Very similarly for hints, for inputs, for groups, group box, for the map, for multi-line, for date, for year. You get the idea? All these are individual controls. So I am actually interested in this control. So I'm going to go to this control itself, and I see that this is the way the code has been written. It's about 130 or maybe 120, taking out the spaces, about 100 lines of code that actually represents how the label is being done. And you can see label has got some audio button, it's got an image, and it's got some text. You know what? I actually don't like the color of this label. I'm going to change this and say I want this color to be our company color, which is bright red. Okay, this is our company color for text, and I really need to make some customization, and this is what I'm going to do. Now if I actually run this application, where did I make the change? Sorry? In the form. So where should I see it? When I open the form, right? I'm not going to see the red text here. I didn't make any changes here. So I'm going to open this. Again, I didn't make any changes here, right? But when I open the form, oh, there you go. You see, it started to appear red. That is because we took the control and we started to customize these things. So this is your journey of how you would actually go ahead and make all those changes, okay? Just to give you a little bit more advanced sample or advanced stuff, let's actually take a look at how we are doing a map control over here. So it's called XForm geo point control. So this is the control that gets loaded when you call the geo point, okay? Hence you get that map. Suppose you want to change that and you want to make something else. So the first thing that you will actually do is you are going to create a custom control. In this case here, I have actually created a new QML file called my own custom control. I'm going to import the runtime, ArcGIS runtime libraries, and I'm going to create my own map. I'm going to give it an extent. I'm going to give it a north arrow. I'm going to give it some tile layers. I'm going to give it some feature layers, or whatever you want to do. Once I do all those things, I can actually come back to this and actually replace this custom control with some other custom control, okay? So whenever they get a geo point kind of question, your custom control will get loaded now and not the default one that Survey123 provided, okay? What does that mean? You need to make sure that you don't break anything in your code because it won't go to the next question. That's first. And second thing is, you also need to understand what the XForms is passing to your control and what you need to pass back. So for a map control, what do you need to pass back to the form? You need to pass back the lat long and some other information they're asking, right? As long as you are doing that, most probably your control will work, okay? And if you break that, obviously the lat long will not get submitted. So that's something that you need to be aware of, okay? So you're taking a fully functioning app and trying to change it, so be careful, okay? And I mean, don't get into a point where nothing starts working. So just do gradually, start doing work, make sure it works, test it out. So these are some examples of how you would write a custom control or make changes to existing control itself. James is reminding me I really don't have time. I would like to spend an hour more with you if it's okay, but I guess it's not okay. So I'm going to cut short on this and let's pretend that we have done all the things that we need to do. What next? What next is you can actually test your changes in two ways. You can use something called as an App Studio Player. App Studio Player is an app that we have in the stores where you can just download the source code that you have just created and just run it and get a feeling for how things work, okay? That's one way to test your apps. Once you're done with testing your apps, you could also do something called as a Cloud Make. Cloud Make, let me actually log in. Cloud Make is a service provided by App Studio where we can actually take a bunch of source code and actually build executables for it. You see, since App Studio is cross-platform, it will give you an opportunity to build your custom app for Android, for iOS, for Mac. Hold on, I'm in the wrong tab. For Android, iOS, Mac, and Linux and Windows, and you can target your application to any of these platforms and ask it to build, and once it builds, it's going to give your executable or a binary version of your new app. So we have fast forwarded a few months now because you will start and you will finish, you will test, everything looks good. It's about 2 months now. It's about time for you to deploy it to your devices. You're going to use the certificates I showed you earlier and either put it to the store or deploy it within your own enterprise, okay? So hopefully you guys got a full idea as to how to start and how to do simple things and how to finish it. All right, still I have about a couple minutes, so I'm going to finish up my slide deck here. All right, so a few tips. If you are just looking, I really want some sophisticated validation and I'm going to customize my Survey123 app, don't do that. Make sure you understand the XLS forms very well. It is a very vast thing, so it takes a lot of time for it to we figure out so much of power that it has. So ask questions in GeoNet and reach us through our Twitter accounts, and make sure you know that you don't have to customize unless you really have to. Second thing is similar functionality or features. So make sure you understand where we are going. We are very open about it. I'm sure you guys know that. We are very, very open, and we tell you what we are going to do, when we are going to do, how we are going to do, and we are very extremely reachable. And because of that, check with us on GeoNet or something and see if this is something planned for the next version. Because if you are anyway going to do it for the next version, why spend time on it? Because most probably we will beat you to it, so it doesn't matter. So the best thing is ask us and we'll say no, we're not going to do it for the year, or we will never do it. That's a good candidate for customization. Just don't jump into it, okay? And I just want to change the way the app works. I said, it is simple. If you just want to change the way UI, UX and basic functionality works, please be careful when you're changing completely how XForms work. Because once you do that, you are completely on your own. Because say imagine you go ahead and change everything the way XForms works. You completely change the understanding of the XForms in the app. Now if you come up with a new version of Survey123, you will be completely incompatible with any of the new changes that we have done. So you will never be able to take advantage of it. Are you guys getting it? So you will sort of be isolated and be on an island when you actually go this route. So when you're doing customization, creating that new file and completely overriding that control the way I showed it is a better option than monkeying around with the existing control, because the next time if you override it or if you have better things in it, it will be very hard for you to merge it, okay? So just be a little careful about that. This is just from my experience, I'm actually telling you that. I'm not going to tell you all these things. This is also a slide that's completely available to you. I think you guys know this. I'm going to make all these slides available to you so that it's pretty much telling in words what I just showed you. So the entry points, we have already talked about it, and I've already showed you these things. Okay. I just wanted to end with end with these things. Okay. So we release Survey123 very aggressively. Okay. Every 4 to 6 weeks you always see a release. Okay. Just be aware of that when you're doing customizations. Survey123 template is available in desktop, and it will be refreshed but at a lower rate than Survey123. Survey123 keeps on updating every 4 to 5 weeks, but we just cannot give you the latest code because you also need the correct version of App Studio to work with it. We will try to keep it updated, but that is the last updated version that it can ever work in the version of App Studio that you have. So that is something that you can take care of. The current code base is not available on Git. We distribute it through App Studio, and because of that, once you create your app, it's a good practice to also initialize a Git repo along with that, so that if you do any changes or something, it's tracked, which is very easy to do. That's a very common thing, so that the next time when we actually give you a new template or a new code base, and when you try to merge it, you know what has changed and you can merge it very easily. Just a standard development practice. All right. Thank you for attending, and sorry for keeping you a couple more minutes in the session. Thank you.